Hello and welcome to Jerry's Live. My name is Michaela Westra and I will be your host this evening. Today we're going to be talking about framing round surfaces. In particular, we have a new product, which I don't think we've had a show on yet. We have DaVinci panels in round and oval shapes as well now. So here's what they look like. Beautiful DaVinci birch surface and a round siding. And I wanted to do something on these panels and show you also how to frame them uniquely to match your unique painting. So I have a couple of different options for you today. Now, to start off, I have a round, I believe this is a 10-inch round panel that I painted this beautiful little blue bird on here. And I wanted to frame this in, I was imagining like a bright orange frame so that everything around him was orange and green, and he being blue would just pop among all of these oranges. But there's not really a orange round frame available in the exact orange I'm looking for, so just an easy thing to start off, I'm going to show you how I customize our ambiance round frame, which fits perfectly with these DaVinci panels. And this is what it looks like straight out of the box. I just grabbed the white one because I knew I was going to be painting over it. And in order to put it on, I'll show you this before I start customizing. It comes with tools, a sawtooth hanger, which you can screw into the top area of your frame, and you can hang it that way. Comes with two of those, it looks like. And then just like a normal frame where you slide those little things out of the way to put something in, slide it back, and it holds it in place. It gives you quite a few of those so that you can screw your piece in there and then maybe loosen the screws, slide it out of the way, and put something else in there if you wanted to. Now, I'm going to go super quick with this one because the next one is really fun and a little bit more time consuming. So I have just a white round frame and I want this to be orange. Now, of course, I'm just going to paint this, but I want to show you the things that I do for my painting process. Now, to start off, I want to sand this. And these frames are actually very durable when it comes to the coating it has on there. It's actually coated with gesso and resin, so it's very hard to get this coating off. You don't necessarily need to remove it in order to paint it or gild it, but I did just so that I can make sure that that acrylic paint that I'm using is going to adhere really well to the surface, because it is a little bit smooth. Now, for that, here's my sanded frame. It kind of looks distressed, so if that's something else you want to do to customize your frame, you can just stop here and varnish it and it's ready to go. But I sanded this, and I just grabbed a couple different grades. This pack here has a couple different options, and they're color-coded, which I love. So each of these has a different grit. I believe it goes this way. So the green is going to be 80 grit, this is going to be 120, and then this one here is 220. Now, I always like to have at least 3 different ranges when it comes to sandpaper, so I can start with a really coarse grit, which is going to be the lower number, and get that really nice thick coating off of this frame. And then by the time I get to the third one, which is that 220, I'll have a smoother surface that won't show any scratches in the surface once I start adding that paint. So I just start from the lowest number, move up to the highest. You can keep going beyond that. Maybe you want to end with like 1,000 grit or something, 800, so that it's really, really smooth. You can spend a lot of time sanding this down in preparation. You have a question?
Yes, we wanted to confirm on YouTube, is that a wooden frame?
Yes, I believe this is multi-density fiber board. But if it is MDF, it is very, very sturdy. Now, if you are at this point where you've spent that time sanding your frame down, the next part is you want to make sure that you wipe off any dust. So I did go in with a damp paper towel.
It is an MDF core.
MDF core.
Then outer layers of gesso and resin are built up and sanded by hand to support a smooth application of paint or foil.
Beautiful. All right.
It's composite.
Yes. All right. So, oh, I did want to say, when you are sanding, please use safety precautions, your safety gear. I did wear one of these guys. Always wear a mask when you are sanding. You don't want to inhale anything harmful. And then I do always like to wear gloves when I'm doing something like this as well. Now, so I've sanded it. I've wiped off all of that extra dust. It is now ready to be painted. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I want it to match this pretty closely, but maybe a little bit brighter. So let me start mixing up some colors. And feel free to drop any questions in the chat with Amanda or Jillian while I get this going. And I am using the same paints to paint the frame that I painted the painting, so I know that those colors are going to be very, very similar. And I did a combination of cadmium yellow hue, yellow ochre, and cadmium red deep. These are all going to be part of the Lucas Krill Studio mixing set. And I'm going to lighten it up just a teeny bit with some titanium white. And while I'm doing this, I can give you some more options. You don't have to paint it a color. You could gild it, which I'm actually going to be showing for the next framing option. And you can use gold leaf or you can use gilding wax. And for either of those options, you do not necessarily have to sand your frame for that. You have another question?
Yes, Ginger was wondering if sanding is required to paint it.
I like it just to be safe when it comes to adhesion. It is made to withstand painting and gilding without sanding. So you don't have to. If you don't have the sandpaper and you don't want to put in all that time, you absolutely do not have to. I did it because I just want to make sure that that acrylic stays super well. Because it was a very smooth and shiny surface. I was worried that there was the potential of peeling, but the way it's made, it does say that it does not have to be sanded. And I am making sure I get in all the way here because this is going to be where it frames the painting. Now when you do this, you want to make enough paint to coat your frame 2 times. So you can see with this first coat, since I did sand it, you're seeing that color difference. So when you come to doing 2 layers, you can do just this one color 2 times, 3 times, until it's even all the way around. Or you can coat it with white again after you sanded it, if you sand it, and then go in with your color. Now I probably will do multiple coats with this once I am done, but I just wanted to show you how much of a difference it makes when it comes to doing something different with your frame. Okay. So once I get to this point, I would let this dry, do another coat, and then I'm going to seal it. Now to seal it, I have a couple of options. Today I have some Liquitex acrylic medium or varnish in matte and high gloss, which I chose these two specific ones for the next option, but you can, I like to create some differentiation when it comes to the painting and the frame. So you could have all of this be matte and the frame can be gloss, or if you just want to maybe extend your painting onto the frame, you can do that as well and make sure the finish matches the painting. Now I'm going to put this off to the side so it can dry, and I'll do another coat later. And while I do that, we're going to shift on over to our next framing option. Now that one was really kind of easy and maybe not revolutionary, but I did want to remind you that that is an option. If you see something that only has 4 color options, don't be afraid to get one and customize it yourself. Now, the next option is creating the illusion of a frame. So I'm using the same panel. This is going to be a 5-inch round, and I did a little painting of a ladybug, and I didn't want to have to worry about finding a really tiny frame that was perfect for what I was looking for, so I just made it myself. I used some gold leaf and some acrylic paint, and I created shadows and layering so it looks like I have a frame on here without having to actually put a physical frame on. Now for this, I'm going to show you how I got there. Now I have a finished painting under here, but in order to gild something, you want to let your glue dry for 15 to 30 minutes, if not longer. So that's already got glue on it, it's already prepped to that point. I'm going to show you how I got there. So imagine I have a beautiful butterfly right in the center of this panel. To start off, I'm going to make sure that my frame doesn't come into contact with my finished painting. So I just have some Pro Tape here, and if you're ever worried about this picking up your painting, I've showed this before, I just stick it to some type of fabric, and it lowers the tack a little bit, and it will be less likely to peel up your beautiful artwork. And I know I want a decent sized frame, so I'm not too worried about getting all the way to the edges, but close enough. And again, I made the mistake of using a smaller tape. I did put the 2-inch thick Pro Tape in the teacher's cart. If you're doing a wide area, I do recommend the thicker tape. But this one is always on my desk, so this is my go-to. And once I get to the end where I've covered everything, I do want to make sure I don't have any tape hanging off the edge. And you'll see why once I get there. So once I've covered it completely, I'm going to go around and make sure that nothing is going over the edge of my panel. So I'll just go in, tear off a little bit. And then I'll go in and create the perfect circle for my frame. Okay. So the reason I didn't want anything hanging off the edge is because I'm using the edge to create the circle for my frame. And for that, I have this guy, a technical compass. And if you're wondering, Michaela, that's an oval. How are you gonna make an oval with something that makes a circle? Well, I took this little nib on the end here, the pointy part. You can flip it in two different ways. Let me see if I can get that out of there. There's one side that looks like it comes to, maybe we go to the dynamic for this. There's one side that looks like the point of a pencil. And then there's another side that comes to a blunt edge and then it comes to a teeny tiny point. I'm using this side. I'm going to place it into the end of my compass here. I'm going to push it in until that blunt end lines up with the end of my compass there. So the only thing pointing out is that teeny tiny little point, and then I'll tighten that up. Now that gives me the tiniest little ledge and a little blocker. So I can line this up with the edge of my panel and slide it all the way around. Now you're going to then move these guys. You'll just push these down and you can pull it out, put it together. Find the perfect width of your frame. So I'm going to say, maybe I see my butterfly on here. Here, maybe I'll draw a butterfly. So maybe my butterfly is on here. And I can see how much space my butterfly is taking up. I want to make sure that my frame isn't covering up my butterfly's wing. So I can measure the distance from the edge of my wing to the edge of my panel, make sure my frame doesn't cover that up, or maybe I do want it to cover it up. So I keep in mind my drawing when I'm finding the perfect width for my frame. I'll move this a little bit further into view for you guys. There we go. And then I'll take that little pointy part, make sure that it is always at 90 degrees from the edge of my panel, and I will slide this all the way around my panel. And this will give me a perfectly measured frame all the way around. Now there is also another tool I discovered but didn't think it was the perfect fit. There is a oval mat cutter. If you want to try that out or if you're curious about it, let me know. But for this I just use that compass, create that perfect little window, and then I'll go in with my accurate blade and cut it out. And once I do that, I can just remove all the excess from the outside. This way, I have a perfect edge for my frame to be painted, and my image is going to be completely covered and protected in this process. Now, once I cut this out, I have a couple of steps before I get to the customization step. Because the top of my panel is going to be slightly different from the sides, I want to coat the entire area where I want my frame with some acrylic. There we go. So I'm going to coat this entire edge here as well as these edges with at least 2 coats of acrylic. That's going to fill in any texture that you have on the sides or in the wood so that you don't have any issues when it comes to laying down the gilding, which is what I'm going to be doing. Very similar to this ladybug. I like the gold leaf. You can also use this at this point if you just want to paint it a certain color. You can go ahead and do that. But for the gold leaf, I found that if you paint the sides with at least 2 layers of acrylic, you'll have a lot easier of a time. Now, I did that, and then I put a layer of metal leaf adhesive sizing on top of where I painted that frame, and I got here. You can kind of see my butterfly through the tape there. Alright, so now it is ready to be gold leafed. And if you've ever worked with gold leaf before, you know that maybe gloves are a necessary precaution because gold leaf loves the oils on your fingers and they will stick to your hands and be very hard to remove. So I'm just going to put some gloves on real quick. Do we have any questions while I get ready?
No, but our minds were blown by that trick.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now, for this one, my butterfly, I wish I had the time to show you on live what it looked like before I covered it up. It's a blue butterfly with like a warm, sparkly gray background. And I was thinking silver for my frame today. I did paint it white for that in mind. Now, when you are doing gold leaf, a lot of people like to do somewhere between orange, yellow, red, so it keeps it really warm. If you're doing silver, you can do gray or white or even black. The color that you paint underneath will kind of shine through. It will adjust the color of the gold leaf just a little bit. But if you are curious about all of the options, I am using Gild Gold today. And they come in a variety of different options. I'm going for these two, which is the imitation champagne silver on the left and just regular imitation silver on the right. I like having a little bit of variation. Now I won't be able to show you the layering on live because it does take a little bit of time for the glue to dry and all of that. So I will be doing just one of these on live today. If you have a preference of which one you would like to see, let me know. Again, I have that silver and the champagne silver. I think both would look absolutely beautiful. And then I also have this guy, which is supposed to be staticky. I'm hoping I can charge it up a little bit. It's a static brush that will help me pick up the gold leaf. Alright. Now let me get these open. And again, if you are not familiar with gold leaf, these are very fragile. So you have this little book here. Gild Gold has this nice little crimping on the side. And once you open it up, there's that silver leaf. You can see just how dainty it is when I move it up and down. It kind of flows in the air. Feels a little dangerous, but okay. Now, silver leaf or gold leaf is just going to be really, really, really thin metal. Let me open the other one too while you guys are voting. And so it does have the potential to tarnish if it is not real silver or real gold. So once you do put your layer of gold leaf or multiple layers, like I said, I do want to do a couple different colors on here, be sure to varnish it. Alright, this one's a little bit different. Let's put this off to the side. Alright, how are we looking on votes. Do we have any preference?
We have a vote for champagne and a vote for gold on YouTube.
Okay.
So far 2 for gold on Facebook.
Okay. I don't have gold up here though. I have the champagne silver and the silver.
Champagne. It's the golder of the two.
Okay, okay. So then we'll go for that one. I did want to start with that one anyway, so that's perfect. All right. So this one that I grabbed did not come in a little book. It comes in like a little gift wrapped stack. So I'm going to take the sheet, little wax sheet that it's sitting on. Again, it's very dainty, very flimsy, so be very careful. You can absolutely cut this ahead of time to the right size, but I'm just gonna smack it on there. Now, if you are cutting it down, I do recommend taking something like this, sandwiching it, holding it very still, and using an X-Acto blade to cut it down.
Wouldn't it stick to the scissors?
No, don't use scissors. Yeah. Sandwich it between 2 sheets, cut it with an X-Acto blade, make sure it's held very tight so it doesn't kind of buckle your gold leaf as you go. And since it's on the side as well, I'm going to pick up my panel here and I'm just going to boop, and I'll start tapping it on. Now I had this glue on here, I put it on about 40 minutes ago, so it's had plenty of time to dry. Through trial and error, I did find if you do not allow enough drying time, it will not stick. And I just like to take the little excess and start moving it around. Maybe I'll pick up this piece too. Now, I will say I was very scared to do gold leafing on live because it is very messy. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. I am very excited for the outcome. Take a little extra piece here, pop it on the sides. Alright. I did find that some gold leaf artists will take this outside because of how messy it is. Especially once you've put everything down and you've kind of burnished it into place with either your finger or a soft brush. And then you go in with a slightly harder brush, not like a bristle brush, but something not incredibly soft, and you'll kind of brush all the excess away. That's usually when people go outside to avoid getting all of this glitter inside their studio. I will say the carpet in front of my studio desk right now is very glittery. I'm curious if anyone in the chat has done gold leafing to the point where they've fallen in love with it and just put it on everything. I feel like anyone who sees the glitter and shine of gold leaf is just automatically in love. I feel like artists just like shiny things.
I've seen somebody do their bathroom ceiling with it. And I
oh, that sounds terrifying.
But the best.
Yeah. Oh, I just breathed on it.
You can't laugh at it.
I know. I recommend holding your breath. Just don't breathe. And I'm just trying to keep as much of the excess as possible as something that's usable. You can absolutely just lay sheets down until it's completely covered. But I don't like to waste my materials. Now you can also keep all of this in a jar for later. So if you have still a lot of glitter left over, save it. We have a jar somewhere. Emmy might have hoarded it somewhere. She likes her sparkle. But we have like one of those really big mason jars. And it's just filled with gold leaf. And not just gold leaf, we have silver leaf in there, we have copper leaf in there.
This is a not full one, but.
Oh yeah, we got a little one. Here's one of our little ones. And it's just got a combination of different colors in there, which can actually be very fun. If you collect a bunch of different colors and they're teeny tiny, all the same size, you can just rub this on something that you've glued and get a really nice kind of a, what's it called, the texture called?
Mottled?
Sure, mottled texture. I'm trying not to breathe on it. It's so fragile. Ooh. You have a question?
Yes, can you remind us of what the gold leaf is sticking to?
Yes, so I wasn't able to do it on live because it takes about 30 minutes to dry before you're able to put the gold leaf on. But I put a really thin layer of Speedball Metal Leaf adhesive sizing, I believe it's called. Like I said, really thin layer, let it dry for about 30 minutes. Whatever sizing you get or adhesive you get, it will have instructions on the bottle. Make sure you read those because some of them have different drying times.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I think I've got everything covered. I have a huge mess. Didn't even use my brush, but it's fine. All right, so now here's the point where everything is stuck. Sometimes people will let it kind of adhere to the glue for a little bit before they get to this step. But I just like to tap it, burnish it with my finger just a touch. And then I'll go in with a brush. And this is where it gets a little messy. I might have to do it over my trash can here a little bit. But I will go in and just brush off any excess. So anywhere that the gold leaf has kind of overlapped, you'll be able to see it once you start brushing over it. Some areas aren't laying flat. That's usually where it's overlapped and has some excess. It's a decently time-consuming process, but the outcome is just incredibly beautiful. And I will say, once you get to this point, this is not the end of my framing illusion. So once you have everything on here, you're going to want to seal your gold leaf. I think I said this earlier, but if it is not real gold or real silver, it does have the potential to tarnish over time. So you'll want to seal that with a varnish. I have the Liquitex High Gloss for this in particular. You could put matte on here, but I will say that doesn't retain the same luster. And it won't shine as much. So I'm going to go ahead and try and get this all down here. And the best way if you're saving it is to get a nice sheet of paper and put all of your little flecks on a piece of paper, fold it in half, and use it as a funnel to put in your mason jar or whatever it is that you have. Alright, I'm trying to do this relatively quickly so I can get back into frame for you guys. Alright. It just floats away. Okay. Okay. So here is my finished gilded frame. And another tip I'm going to show you guys, because it does get absolutely everywhere, is just using Pro Tape. Just use this to help you get it cleaned up. You can even wrap it around your finger if you want for easier use. Because sometimes it will stick to your desk, and even wiping it away with a paper towel doesn't necessarily work. So using something sticky is really helpful, and it's pretty. Okay, so at this point you're going to varnish it, and I'm going to be using the high gloss. And I'm going to make sure that my butterfly is matte. I believe I already coated it with a layer of matte. This is going to be important when you're creating the illusion of a frame, because the finish, there being a difference in the finish, is really going to add to the illusion. Now, if both your frame and your painting are the same finish, it might not look like they're different enough. So I'm just going to quickly coat this. Like I said, I'll probably add more to it later, which is what I did on the ladybug. I put down, I believe it was the gold first, and then I went in and I added details similar to this ambiance frame where it has those ridges. In the light, there's darker areas and lighter areas, and I just used that to create the illusion here. I marked it out with some brown acrylic, and then I went in with another layer of the champagne silver, I believe, so it was a little bit lighter than the gold, but still in the golder family, and it creates that illusion of depth. So those darker areas have the flat acrylic, and the higher areas have that really bright, shiny, lighter gold. Alright, and like I said, that was not the end. Once you get to this point and you varnish it, you're going to want to continue the illusion. So in this guy here, there's a shadow. You want the frame to have some depth to the painting. You want it to feel like it's on top of the painting. So you want to create a shadow under the top lip of your piece. So I'm going to go in, there's my blade. Where'd I put my blade at? Here it is. Okay. I'm just going to use that to help me peel up my paint.
While you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
Ginger had a pro level idea.
Ooh, okay.
Of using like a lint roller.
Oh,
And
yes!
just, like,
Oh, that would be
the whole
amazing. expert level idea. I love
Yeah.
that. Now, I would recommend letting your varnish dry, but I do want to show you this step. And I'm just revealing my butterfly, who's upside down. Goodness. Alright. And there's my butterfly. I'm very proud of him. And I got just a touch of gold on here. I'm going to use that same method. Alright. So there's that. I got a frame on there. I want to make sure I have that shadow. So I'm going to pull out my palette again. And for this, I'm just going to be using some black acrylic. And this is very useful color for this specific technique because, I mean, I have black in my painting, but I usually don't use blacks in my painting. So having something that's different from my painting could potentially add to the illusion. And to thin it down to create a shadowy consistency, I have some golden satin liquid. Glazing liquid, sorry. And I'm just going to squeeze that out on my palette. And I have some teeny tiny brushes. I had a set of black swan brushes, the 5 set of flats, and I have a size 2 and a size 0. These are perfect for this in particular, because you don't want to get heavy-handed with this step. I'm going to start really thin. You can always get darker. It's harder to get lighter for this. So really thin, and think about how you want to hang this. This is kind of obvious where I know this is the top and this is the bottom. If you have a slightly different painting, you might have to decide the way it is hung. But I like to make sure that up here, this upper curve, has a shadow, and down here still has a shadow, but not quite as harsh as the top. So I'm just going to go in, start adding a little bit of a shadow at the top. And I want it to be smooth, so I'm going to go in with a slightly bigger brush to feather it out at the ends. And this is something I like to build up, because like I said, it's easier to go darker, harder to go lighter. And maybe I'll start with this really light gray and just go all the way around. And then I'll mix a darker one to just put in at the top. And when I'm blending it with this bigger brush, I'm kind of starting at the end of my puddle of paint and circling it towards the edge, pushing it towards the edge instead of blending it this way. And I keep going over to my palette to wipe off any excess. And I'm already starting to see just a slight little shadow. It's starting to feel like it's lifting up off the surface. I'm also curious, put in the chat if you already have a painting in mind that you want to add an illusion frame to. even if you go really subtle with these shadows, you might just hit that illusion. You don't need a lot. So you can kind of see on the bottom there, I have got really thick there. Just wiping off my brush, and I'm just pushing that glob of paint towards the edge. All right. So now that I have a little bit of a thin layer, I'm going to go in with some darker gray. And I'm just going to do the halfway point, the entire top half. Going in with that darker gray. Not too worried about it being messy because I can go in with that dry brush and blend it in. See how it starts pretty harsh, and before it dries, blend it in. All right. Now another thing that can add to the illusion, not just adding shadows, you can add highlights. You can do that a couple of two ways. You can use just white and do the opposite that you did up here. Add just a little bit of white along the gold side along the bottom edge. So it creates a little bit more of that illusion. Highlight along the bottom, shadow along the top. Or like I said, you can do another layer of gold leaf, something that's a little bit lighter. Or you can tone this with a acrylic glaze. Put the same color on top. That will also create a little bit of an illusion. But no matter what you do, as long as you have shadow and separation of finish, you can create a frame using whatever you like. You can just do a color, you can do gilding, whatever it is that you would like. Let me clean up some of my gold leaf. All right. Picking up all those little extra gold leaf pieces. Every time I breathe, they just go whoo. And I love this kind of white, silvery gold in this painting. And my my wings and my butterfly are also painted with a metallic paint. So there's a little bit of a connection there. I love the flashes I'm getting.
Yeah, we made the right choice.
Oh yeah. Great decision, guys. I'm gonna try and clean this up a little bit more. And then maybe I'll add a second coat to my final frame and we can see them all together.
You do need a lint roller.
I know. I have one on my desk. I should have brought it in here. So let me make another batch of my orange. And we'll finish up that final frame. That gives you time for any extra questions if you have it. my head. Alright. I think I might go a little bit lighter with this next one because it dried a little darker than I liked. I always forget when I'm mixing how strong red is. I'll start mixing and I'll just grab it quickly. I'm like, oh, way too much. I also love that I have all of the hot dog condiments on here.
I just thought that.
Alright. There's this guy. So bright. Oh my goodness. Let's get another coat on here. Oh yeah, I like that a lot better. Just a little bit lighter. And you can also, once you get to your final coat, you can dry brush another color on top, and that way only the raised areas will have that color and all of the indentations will have your first color. Gotta get creative. Another idea I thought of, because I was considering different colors for this frame in particular, is doing a gradation of the colors in my bird's wings. So a blue to a green to like a purple. You do not have to paint it just one color. I'll make just a slight gradation because I did not follow my own advice and mix a lot of the color I wanted. All right. Move this out of the way. And with that, we have our frames. Move you down just a little bit. Try not to touch the frame. Alright. So those are our frames. We were talking about the illusion frames as well as customizing existing frames. Go ahead and be creative if you don't find exactly what you're looking for. Use what you have or what you're able to find and customize it further to what exactly you're looking for. We have another question?
Yes, we have a final question from Karen wondering if a gilding wax would work for this as well.
Absolutely. Yep, if you do that with this guy, you do not have to frame this at all. This is perfect for just putting gilding wax on. I wanted to bring some on the show as an example, but I wasn't able to find any in the studio and it was a last minute thought. So thank you for asking that. That is definitely something you can do. And we have a couple different options in the store as well, both in color and different kinds of wax. All right. So that was our show today. It was a little messy and hectic, but it was very fun to kind of spark some ideas. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you frame some round pieces in the future. And of course, if you do, we always love to see. Go ahead and post that to our Jerry's Live Facebook page. If you are new to that page, don't forget that one security question. And we will see you next time. We're already done for the day. Oh my goodness. Okay, so next week, Emmy will be here with a special guest. We have Ruben Negron coming back on, and they're going to be talking about sketchbooks and the spirit of experimentation. Mysterious. Sounds very fun. So go ahead and join us next week if you're curious about that. Of course, it is a vendor show, so there might be some fun secrets. And we'll see you next time. Thank you again for coming, and we hope to see you later. Bye.